Back in 2022, the National Crime Agency's most wanted list was a hotbed of fraudsters, drug lords, rapists, pedophiles, and murderers. As you might expect, it's dominated by men. But among the 21 criminals on the list, there is one solitary woman, staring out of a mugshot with stormy blue eyes and the smallest hint of a smile. Sarah Panitzke had been the most wanted woman in Britain for 7 years by the time she was caught in Spain in 2022. But who was this mystery woman? And how serious were her crimes to afford her a place on the annual NCA list of most wanted criminals? You are watching OCG TV. Sarah Panitzke wasn't your typical criminal. Raised in the affluent village of Escrick near Selby, she came from a privileged background. Educated at York College for Girls and the prestigious St Peter's School, she held degrees from Manchester Metropolitan University and a master's from a university in Barcelona. She had a happy childhood, growing up with both parents and a brother. She rarely disobeyed or fought with her family. Her parents built a bar with beer taps, a pool table, and a TV at the end of their garden for her and her friends to socialise in. When Sarah was 19, a revelation about her father's success rocked their family. The building contractor he owned had acquired council properties and sold them prematurely for a large profit. An investigation was launched, and her father's dad was arrested and eventually given 4 years in jail and serving 2. Sarah moved back home to be with her mum for the first few months her father was inside. She travelled back and forth between Manchester and York, accompanying her on visiting days, disrupting her own studies and social life to be present. When Sarah's father was released from prison, she relaunched her life plan quickly and left to study for her master's degree in business management at Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona, aged 25. But somewhere between leaving York and moving to Spain, Sarah became embroiled in a white-collar crime of her own. Alongside 18 other fraudsters from up and down the UK, Sarah established a network of companies that bought and sold mobile phones with a money-making twist. The group purchased phones VAT-free from EU countries, then sold them in the UK for a higher, tax-inclusive price. The head of the crime ring was a 78-year-old Scotsman, Geoffrey Johnson. He recruited fellow fraudsters, including Sarah, from towns and cities across the UK. They were so unconnected that even the authorities couldn't establish exactly how the mastermind had found his co-conspirators, although there was a suggestion at the trial that an unidentified party overseas had linked them together. Phones were the chosen commodity because they were small, valuable, and easy to take in and out of the country in what looked like a legitimate business. After the goods were sold, the company would disappear without paying £1 to HMRC in what's known as missing trader intra-community fraud. But the crime didn't stop there. The scam was repeated time and time again with the same products. At one stage, there were more mobile phones being purchased and exported by the crime syndicate in the space of a month than legitimately bought or sold in the country as a whole. The gang had access to a banking platform that allowed one person to transfer huge sums of money up and down a supply chain without losing control of the cash. For each deal, the scam would rob the authorities twice. By owning all companies involved, the gang could claim back unpaid tax from the public purse. HMRC didn't challenge it. They focused on checking if the paper trail confirmed the purported transactions, which it always did. Sarah travelled to Dubai, Spain, and Andorra to clean the money the crime ring had stolen. She oversaw the company's accounts and used generated IP addresses to keep their operation untraceable online. While she conned the taxman, she lived in an apartment in a gated community near Vilanova i la Geltrú, a port town south of Barcelona, and enjoyed an outdoor swimming pool and views of the Mediterranean. From there, she drove a Mercedes CL500 to the resort town of Sitges, where she worked for hotels and a tennis academy in the early 2000s as an apparent front to hide her criminal life. She and her partner also ran a business, invest-arrest plans based in the nearby town of Canyelas. In the summer of 2005, HMRC began to notice irregularities in their bank transactions. Sarah had wired huge quantities of cash to global offshore bank accounts. After a lengthy 21-month investigation into the multi-million-pound scam, dubbed Operation Volta, authorities conducted a series of morning raids up and down the UK in September of 2007. Sarah pled not guilty, as did the rest of the group accused. She didn't stick around to see if the defense would work. Before the gavel hit the block, she was gone. In her absence, she was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Panitzke was last seen in Villanova-Ilageltru a year before her trial and infuriated her neighbours by allegedly leaving more than €40,000 in unpaid community fees, similar to ground rent, which they claim she had refused to pay for over a decade. Panitzke and her partner are still the registered owners of the flat to this day. Neighbours say that she was unpopular and called her an idiot for not paying the community fees, as well as installing a bathroom and making changes in her flat without permission. The years passed without any sign of Sarah Panitzke. Over time, she crept up the rankings in the most wanted list. Every year, there would be the usual NCA appeal, that infamous passport photo of Sarah looking innocently back at the camera, but no leads ever came. Panitzke's long-standing links with Spain led HMRC to contact the Guardia Civil, who began to assist in the hunt for her. By 2015, they had tracked her down to the town of Olivella in the province of Barcelona. Surveillance revealed that Panitzke hardly ever ventured out of her hiding place and was dependent on weekly visits from her husband, who brought her basic supplies. However, during the operation that was due to lead to her arrest, she managed to pick up on the police presence, completely change her appearance, and escape. From that moment, she became a priority aim for investigators, who gathered and analysed a massive quantity of information about her and kept a permanent watch on her closest contacts. They also found that she had broken off all physical contact with her family in Spain to avoid being detected. Tragically, Sarah's father died of natural causes during the UK's first coronavirus lockdown on the 22nd of April 2020. Yet, mourning was not enough to push Sarah from hiding. She has been so successful in outsmarting the authorities that police even resorted to asking British holidaymakers to help them find Sarah in 2019 after 6 years of fruitless searching. Unknown to the authorities, she arrived in the small town of Santa Barbara the same year she fled to Olivella and moved into the block of flats, which has a small outdoor pool and views of the Tinenza de Benefassa National Park. She adopted a new identity, and on her postbox was the name Maria Antonietta. In February 2022, detectives were alerted to her possible presence in Santa Barbara, a small town of about 4,000 people in Tarragona province. Police closely watched a woman matching the Panitzke's physical description who lived in a block of flats on the outskirts of town. Mindful of what had happened in 2015, a large team of plainclothes officers was deployed on a round-the-clock watch that lasted several weeks. Panitzke stuck to her routine, only leaving her 3-bedroom marionette to swim in the block's small outdoor pool during the siesta, go to the supermarket, or walk her dogs twice a day. She would go swimming in the quiet hours at lunchtime between 2 and 4. She was very discreet in everything that she did. The neighbours would later comment that they thought she was a bit strange. Everyone in the town knew each other, but Sarah avoided unnecessary contact. Life had become harder, the money had run out, and when her washing machine broke, she became upset because she could not afford to repair it. She never mentioned life in England and rarely spoke with her family other than a video call during the Christmas lockdown that year. Panitzke tried her hand at selling knitwear and cross-stitch but struggled. She made beautiful satchels and tried to sell them to a local shop owner to make a living, but he wasn't interested. Panitzke would visit neighbours for a cup of tea, but rarely invited others into her flat. Those neighbours who did get a glimpse into her home would later reveal that the apartment was completely empty, as if someone had just moved in. She had beautiful and expensive clothes which were peculiar for someone who never went out because they said they didn't have any money. The strange situation regarding this mysterious neighbour would soon be explained. On Sunday, the 27th of February 2022, bemused residents watched as an elite team of the Civil Guard from Madrid descended on Maria as she walked her dogs 500 yards from her home. Officers from the force and HM Revenue and Customs embraced as Panitzke was taken away. Her captors would discover a fake Italian ID in the name of Antonietta Aguilo, which she had been using for the previous 7 years. When she faced up to her crimes at Kingston Crown Court, she was given an unexpected lifeline. The judge recapped the sentence handed down in 2013, confirming that now she was extradited, that her initial sentence of 8 years would stand, and that she could be paroled after only 4. However, that came with the condition that she paid a confiscation order of over £2.4 million, or face a further 9 years on top of her original sentence. Needless to say, no money was paid within the 3-month deadline, and she was given the increased sentence. Not only that, but the original outstanding amount, including interest, continues to accrue at a rate of £538 a day and has topped £4 million as of today. Behind the headlines, there are innocent family members who have had to endure great hardship due to the choices made by their loved ones. When Sarah was eventually found, her own mother gave a sad and damning indictment on the relationship with her daughter. Speaking from her home in the sleepy village of Market Weighton, East Yorkshire, she said, "At least I know she is safe and well, but otherwise I have no comment." It was the first news she had heard from her daughter in 10 years on the run. Sarah's brother also told Vice magazine that the whole saga had been incredibly difficult for everyone involved. Sarah Panitzke's family endured a decade of heartbreak while she lived as one of Britain's most wanted fugitives. Her decision to flee from a £2.4 billion VAT fraud conviction tore apart the fabric of her once close family. Most devastatingly, Sarah's life on the run meant she couldn't attend her beloved father's funeral, a loss that would haunt her forever. Living in isolated Spanish villages, Sarah's world shrank to a careful routine of brief grocery trips and anxious glances over her shoulder. She lost touch with friends and missed countless family milestones, birthdays, weddings, and the simple joy of Sunday dinners with loved ones. While the fraud scheme brought temporary wealth, the true cost was measured in the hollow echoes of missed phone calls and empty chairs at family gatherings. Now serving her sentence, Sarah faces the brutal reality that no amount of money could compensate for the irreplaceable years lost with her aging parents and the relationships fractured by her choices.